back to Hannity and our continuing coverage of Day 5 of the George Zimmerman trial. And joining me now in studio, our legal panel, Fox News legal analyst Peter Johnson Jr., the host of Judge Alex Ferrer is here, as well as Fox News legal analyst Mercedes Cohen. Guys, good to see you. All right.
Good to see you, Sean.
There's the interview, very specific answers. I'm not sure George Zimmerman will take the stand or will have to. What did you think of the interview?
I thought the interview was great. I thought the questions that you gave him were great. The real critical issue... I wasn't asking
for my point.
Oh, no, the real critical question that he sort of danced a little bit around is the conscious thought that he had before he pulled the gun and pulled the trigger. That question at the very end, when you said to him, what were you thinking? Did you feel that you had consciously felt that your life was in danger and that's why you pulled the gun?
But he admitted he was dazed. He had just had his head beaten into the cement, had a broken nose, was in deep pain.
It's very true. That's the one question. If it's ever going to be played, if it ever sees the light of day in court, that prosecutor is going to zero in and say, he didn't say, of course I thought I was in danger. Of course, Sean. That's why I pulled the trigger.
I'm curious if the prosecution is going to play your interview in court, because one of the things they want to do is show inconsistencies. They obviously took statements from him that night, and I don't know how many, we'll find out how many they took, and they're going to show inconsistencies in his statements because, frankly, they don't have much more. They really don't. This is every day I see some evidence come out in the form of a witness the prosecution calls and turns it out to be a defense witness by the time they're done.
Every one of them. It's a compelling articulation of self-defense. It is textbook. It couldn't be better in terms of Zimmerman's case. Says he was being suffocated, near unconsciousness, sucker punched, hit a dozen times on the head into the ground. And then, according to Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin reaching on his chest in order to take his weapon.
But here's the thing about
self-defense.
He definitely lays out a self-defense. The thing is that there are inconsistencies. For example, he says, I'm being suffocated, he's covering my mouth and nose, but that's after his nose has been punched and broken, so you would anticipate there'd be blood on Trayvon's hands. There's no blood on Trayvon's hands.
Well, actually, they dealt with that today in the medical testimony because he's back and the blood would go back in, and that's why they brought that up today, which I thought was very smart.
But that is true, but you'd have to assume that every drop of blood from the minute he got punched. But here's the thing about it.
But there
the
were
prosecution
injuries,
is actually relying on those questions to kind of raise a doubt about whether it's self-defense.
You're getting into minutiae here. Let's look big picture. Look at the testimony of the one eyewitness. He was straddling, Trayvon was straddling Zimmerman, the MMA style, fist going down, screams coming from Zimmerman.
And you know what was a great here? The key issue about that witness today, though, the witness today said, hey, I heard those cries coming from the lighter-skinned individual who was on the ground. That's Zimmerman. I mean, he's the one that's saying, I yelled for help. I was scared. I'm yelling for help. That's when I reached for my gun and ended the altercation.
I agree with Peter. Classic self-defense.
Classic self-defense. And we heard Mr. Good give this compelling testimony that we've been talking about, ground and pound, as if it was mixed martial arts. And we know, if you know anything about mixed martial arts or self-defense, the way to take somebody out quickly is to smash them hard in the nose, disorient them, and then take them down, and then ground them into submission, if not death.
Let me give you the point I was trying to make, which is MMA, the medical records the nurse testified to indicate that George Zimmerman was doing MMA training. Prosecution's going to highlight that.
So
the blood on the
witness said he was obese.
Let me make my point here. Right. George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin not having blood on his hands, they're going to argue this shows he was lying about him trying to be smothered. Here's the thing. Those are the types of arguments that raise a potential doubt about the majority of the evidence. The majority of the evidence, however, is clearly self-defense. The majority of the evidence is the witness who was closest, who saw what was happening, is John Good, who testified today, who said, I could see the color red on the bottom, I could see it was a white guy, I could see a guy dressed in dark clothes on top.
No skin in the game.
White guy was yelling for help.
No skin in the game. I mean, here's a nut who's nothing to do with this.
Doubt is usually the defense. The prosecution's the one that's got to prove it beyond every reasonable doubt. It's almost like the defense is proving self-defense beyond every reasonable doubt, and the prosecution's trying to raise doubt.
The prosecution, I have no
I'll tell you why.
idea.
I'll tell you why. Because under Florida law, under the Amos versus State case, if the prosecution does not call a witness who has knowledge and that they're aware of, who has critical knowledge about the case, and the defense has to call them as a witness, the defense is entitled in closing to get up and tell the jury, We don't have a burden, but we had to call this witness because the prosecution was tailoring its evidence.
I'll accept that answer.
They tried to dodge that.
All right, counselor. We'll come back. More with our legal panel right after the break tonight here on Hannity.